I don't want anything to do with you, okay?
I'm sorry, Humpty. It doesn't work like that.
CSI. Has a crime scene been touched since y'all came on scene?
No, not since it happened. It's just been original since we came here.
Perfect. His injuries suggest he fell from a high distance. Maybe a night of heavy drinking.
I don't think so. There's no bottles around. And then there's this.
The spatula?
Looks to be. Aside from the spatula, did you notice anything else different?
A little dirty, maybe some hamburger grease or something?
No. There was blood.
Blood? So there was foul play. Something had to happen. There was another person.
Indeed.
Did you dust for prints yet or no?
I did.
Did you find anything that didn't match his?
No. Did you find anything?
Humpty Dumpty died right here. These are somebody else's prints. This was a homicide. Here's a sample of the victim's clothes, his blood, and then need you to run a test on it.
Is that everything you found?
We found this too.
I've never seen a weapon like that before.
This isn't a normal.
Alright, I'll get right on it. This was the hash-slinging slasher.
All rise for the Honorable Judge Harambe.
Court is now in session.
Your Honor, I'm the attorney for the state. This is the case of the state versus the hash-slinging slasher for the murder of Humpty Dumpty.
How does the defendant plead?
The defendant pleads not guilty.
Well, then the hearing will begin.
The prosecution calls expert witness Billy Mays to the
Billy
stand.
Mays here. I'm the medical examiner.
Mr. Mays, would you please state your name and position?
I'm Billy Mays, and I'm the medical examiner.
Could you please tell the jury the marks found on Mr. Humpty Dumpty's body?
Yes, I can. There was some lacerations up on the right breast, and there was a fracture on the upper cranial area. In my guess, it must be foul play.
And what could have caused these injuries?
Probably an altercation with the victim and the individual themselves.
Your Honor, the witness is speculating. We ask that you disregard his remarks.
Your Honor, Rule 702 established in 5 versus the United States clearly says the witness qualified as an expert may testify thereto in the form of an opinion or otherwise.
I will let the statement stand. Does the prosecution have any more questions?
No, Your Honor.
The defense has a couple of questions, Your Honor. Mr. Mays, were there any substances that you found on Mr. Dumpty's body that could have impaired him?
None that we could find.
Was there any DNA on his body?
We did find blood under the individual's fingers.
Did the blood belong to the victim?
No, the blood belonged to someone else.
Okay, so the victim acted with aggression towards the person in question.
Well, there's no way of telling if Mr. Humpty was the first one to draw blood. I mean, there's no way of telling.
So how are we supposed to know any circumstantial evidence you provided can be considered incriminating or definitive? Can we even trust you, Mr. Mays? Your Honor, I have no further questions. Your Honor, the defense calls Mr. Hash-slinging Slasher to the stand. Mr. Slasher, where were you the night of Mr. Humpty's death?
I was at a party between 6 to 11.
And where were you after the party?
I was working the night shift at the Krusty Krab.
Do you have any evidence to prove that statement?
I have my friends and coworkers.
So you couldn't have been at the murder that occurred at 9:30 p.m.?
That is correct.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Your Honor, the prosecution has a couple questions for the defendant right here. Was there any problems at the party? Any police that you can recall?
Not that I was aware of.
There's a police report filed at 9 o'clock, I believe, and the party was shut down at 9:30. You were at the murder at 9:45. That would explain the blood found at the scene, which directly connects you to the murder. That would explain the class evidence, which matches clothing we found at your apartment. And that would explain the single index fingerprint that was found on the railing, where Mr. Humpty Dumpty was pushed over.
Does the prosecution have any further questions?
I just have one question, Mr. Slasher. Why did you do it?
I love that egg.
The prosecution has no further questioning, Your Honor.
You're dismissed, Mr. Slasher. The jury will come up with a verdict. Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, we have, Your Honor. We, the jury, find the hash-slinging slasher guilty of first-degree murder.
Very well. I sentence the hash-slinging slasher to life in prison.